So this is Ford Brewer, heart attack, stroke prevention, disability prevention, cancer prevention. Today we're going to talk about coconut water. Is it a healthy drink or a marketing scam? As you can see, this came from a headline with the Mayo Clinic newsletter. Now, when they say marketing scam, really, aren't they being a little bit harsh? Actually, that article goes on to say they really don't think you need it. They're not quite so harsh in it. They're just saying, do you really need it? What is the hype around coconut water? Well, I personally was introduced to coconut water in Texas in the summer. A friend and co-worker of mine, Ann Norman. Ann is now the head of education for the American Association of Nurse Practitioners. She and I were working together, visiting some prevention clinics in Texas, and she brought along her favorite drink, coconut water. Now, I don't remember which brand. I think it might have been Zico. Could have been Coca Vita. I don't know. I think that that one coconut water was, I don't know if it was the last one I've had, first one and the last. I thought it was pretty good, but again, we'll talk a little bit more about coconut water and whether it's all it's hyped up to be. I think it's actually not bad, but let's talk about the rest of the story. So here you've got a picture of John Eisner, and I think his name is Nicholas Mahut, or Mayett. They're standing in front of the board here at Wimbledon. They broke the record for the longest match at Wimbledon. John Eisner won it. He credited his stamina and ability to hang in there with all of that 11 hours of grueling hot sun and top of the world level tennis to his coconut water. And in fact, that's what that appears to be the biggest niche that coconut water has taken. It is a sports drink alternative and a healthy, natural sports drink alternative. You can see this from this headline with the Huffington Post, and you see it in a lot of other lay press as well. In fact, can it really be that bad? Stars like Rihanna swear by it, and those kind of folks have plenty of money to find out what's really really good for you and what's not. To go on in the Huffington Post, you see several different claims. It's low in calories, like what, 40 to 50 calories per cup. It's fat-free. It hydrates. It's loaded with potassium. That's true. Most plant materials are. Low glycemic. It does have a low glycemic load. And again, lots of good electrolytes. Now, there's some challenge here, though. It's fairly low in sodium, and if you're John Eisner out in an 11-hour match at Wimbledon in the sun, you're sweating, and sweat has a lot of sodium in it. So he actually probably needed to watch his sodium intake, and my guess is if this 11 hours was during a couple of hot days, he may have been supplementing his sodium as well. It's got enzymes. It's a source of other nutrients as well. So again, these claims are true in terms of that's what it has. And in fact, it is lower calorie intake than Gatorade and Sports Aid and all of the different aids, sports drinks. It does have good electrolytes, and in fact, the vast majority of people that routinely drink sports drinks really need potassium more than sodium because they're just not sweating as much as John Eisner was. So anyhow, with all of this hype and attention, coconut water, I know I've seen it around, but I had no idea. According to Jeff Klein, I think is his name, a consultant and writer for the beverage industry. He says the question is now not this: will it be a couple of $100 million industry, or will it be a $2 or $3 billion industry? So yeah, coconut water's big business at this point. The three biggest ones are Vita Coco, Zico, and O.N.E. O-N-E. Big bucks around this issue. Here's the ad for, I think this one's Vita Coco. And again, you go through that website, you'll see a lot of claims. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of these claims about lower calorie than sports drinks, better electrolytes mix, well, it depends on whether you really need sodium or not. Low glycemic, clearly low glycemic compared to the other sports drinks, if you're using it as a sports drink. Here's the website for Zico. But here's the question. This comes from the lay press, CBC News. Sports drinks are unnecessary. They're counterproductive for most people. And this article went on to quote some studies that the CBC News people did on their own. I think one of their studies was to have a bunch of weekend runners run for 45 minutes. There was no change in their electrolytes or glucose values. These guys, I mean, you run 45 minutes and you don't need a sports drink. If you're running 45 minutes in 102-degree weather, you need probably more than a sports drink. So let's look at another resource around this. Harvard newsletter. Their advice is trade sports drinks for water. And I would agree with them. I would agree with Harvard, with Mayo, with the CBC News article. I've had my own experiences in training. I've run at least a half dozen marathons. I've said that I ran an ultra marathon, but I actually walked more than I ran. It took me almost, I can't even remember the number of hours. It's an embarrassing number. I was incredibly slow. I got a knee injury, but that's a different issue. The point is, I've spent enough time in the endurance athlete world to say from personal experience, outside of the science, you really don't need the sports drinks that people are slamming down. And if you got to have a sports drink, I would say coconut water is better than Gatorade and the others, at least in terms of health. But I'd still say you don't need a sports drink.